What happens when a dictator promises freedom? Paul Biya, president of Cameroon for over 4 decades, recently made a statement that shocked the nation. He said, "No person shall henceforth be harassed because of their ideas, opinions, or beliefs, provided they do not infringe upon the law or the rights of others." At first glance, it sounds like a breakthrough, like a long overdue step toward liberty. But for millions of Cameroonians who have lived under Biya's rule for over 40 years, it doesn't sound like freedom. It sounds like a contradiction, a political riddle wrapped in decades of repression. To understand the weight of this moment, you have to understand who Paul Biya is. He's not just another African president. He's one of the longest-serving heads of state in the world. He's been in power since 1982, longer than the average Cameroonian has been alive. And throughout his rule, Cameroon has not been known for tolerance, freedom of speech, or democratic openness. It has been known for the opposite. Biya's regime has crushed dissent. Peaceful protesters have been jailed. Opposition figures like Maurice Kamto have been harassed, arrested, and silenced. Independent journalists have been exiled or disappeared. And during the Anglophone crisis, entire communities were terrorized for speaking out against injustice. So when Biya says people will no longer be harassed for their beliefs, people ask, what about all those who already were? What about the hundreds of voices already silenced, the families torn apart by political arrests, the villages burned, the students beaten, the radio stations shut down? Can a single sentence erase an entire legacy? Because this statement didn't come from a reformist leader. It came from a man who mastered the art of control. A man who has survived every political wave for 4 decades. Not by adapting to democracy, but by outmaneuvering it. Under Biya, elections have become rituals of control. Constitutional reforms serve the palace, not the people. And the judiciary is loyal, not to justice, but to the man in charge. His ruling party, the CPDM, has dominated parliament with no real opposition. State media operates more like a propaganda machine than a free press. And even now, Cameroon ranks poorly on global freedom indexes. Yet suddenly, after 40 years, he says ideas are safe? This is why people aren't celebrating. They're asking questions. Why now? What is the motive? Is it genuine change, or just a calculated move? Because Biya is 91 years old. He rarely appears in public, and many believe this quote could be part of a broader political strategy, either to craft a softer legacy or to prepare for transition. But Cameroonians have heard promises before. They've seen leaders make grand speeches while crushing dissent behind closed doors. So a quote, no matter how well written, is not enough. Not anymore. If Biya wants the people to believe him, he has to act. Release the political prisoners. Unblock the censored media outlets. Let peaceful protesters speak without fear. Let Cameroonians criticize, organize, and dream without punishment. Only then will that quote carry meaning. Because freedom is not declared with words, it's proven with actions. Let's talk about the Anglophone regions. For years, these communities have demanded fair treatment, equal representation, and linguistic respect. Instead, they were met with military crackdowns, arbitrary arrests, and violent raids. Entire towns were displaced. Thousands of lives were lost. And still today, many live in fear. So again, when Biya speaks of tolerance, what does it mean for them? Does this promise extend to the people of Bamenda, of Buea, of Kumba? Or is it just for international headlines? And what about the youth? Cameroon's younger generation has grown up in a nation where criticism is risky and political engagement is dangerous. They've watched their future shrink under the weight of corruption, unemployment, and repression. They are not inspired by words. They want proof. They want job opportunities, press freedom, electoral reform, and justice. They want the right to speak without being silenced, to march without being tear-gassed, to post their opinions online without fearing arrest. And that's the truth Biya must face. Because in today's Cameroon, The people are no longer waiting for permission. They're watching, they're documenting, they're remembering, and most importantly, they're speaking, even when it's risky, even when it's dangerous. So now the burden is on the regime. If this promise is real, then change the laws. End the harassment. Prove that the state will no longer punish belief, expression, or dissent. And if nothing changes, if this was just another line to calm the waters, then history will remember it as such. A missed moment, a hollow promise, a quote from a leader who could have made a difference, but chose control instead. Let's be honest, Paul Biya doesn't need more words. He needs action. Because the Cameroonian people have spoken. They don't want permission. They want freedom. They don't need comfort. They need justice. And they won't be silenced by a quote. Not this time. Because today, across Cameroon, the people are standing taller. They are questioning more, demanding more, expecting more. They've endured 40 years of fear. Now they want 40 years of change. So Mr. Biya, if you meant what you said, prove it. Not with speeches, not with press releases, but with real, lasting, undeniable action. Because freedom cannot be gifted from the top. It must be protected at the root. And if Cameroon is truly entering a new era, then let it begin with truth, with justice, with accountability. Not just for the privileged few, but for every Cameroonian. Because this time the people are watching, and they won't forget. Because freedom cannot be gifted from the top. It must be protected at the root. And if Cameroon is truly entering a new era, then let it begin with truth, with justice, with accountability, not just for the privileged few, but for every Cameroonian. Because this time, the people are watching, and they won't forget. But here's the deeper question. How did we get here in the first place? Paul Biya didn't just emerge in power. He was placed, protected, and preserved by a political system built to resist change. When he took office in 1982, Biya inherited a country shaped by colonial divisions and centralized rule. Instead of dismantling that legacy, he reinforced it. Over time, opposition parties were sidelined. Media outlets were tamed or shut down. Courts were filled with loyalists. And the state became an engine for control, not progress. Every crisis, from economic downturns to insurgencies, became an excuse to tighten his grip further. And through it all, the government's message was clear. Stability over freedom. Order over dissent. Loyalty over truth. So now, when Biya speaks of tolerance and rights, it clashes violently with decades of lived reality. This is why the youth don't believe the press releases. They've grown up in a country where speaking your mind can cost you your future. Where your degree might not get you a job, but your silence might get you a favor. Where online expression is monitored. Where fear isn't abstract. It's every day. They've watched their parents suffer quietly. They've seen their friends go to jail for protesting peacefully. And they've learned that in Cameroon, the loudest voice isn't the bravest. It's often the next to disappear. Now let's talk about the economy. Cameroon is not a poor country, it's a mismanaged one. It has oil, timber, fertile land, minerals, and a hard-working population. But decades of corruption and elite capture have robbed the people of their rightful wealth. Public funds disappear into private accounts. Infrastructure projects stall halfway. Healthcare systems collapse under neglect. Teachers go months without pay. Meanwhile, luxury cars glide through cities where water doesn't run and power fails daily. This isn't just economic inequality, it's structural injustice. And when people demand answers, they are met with intimidation. That's not freedom. That's economic violence wrapped in political silence. Let's not forget the diaspora. Millions of Cameroonians who've left the country to seek opportunity, safety, or justice abroad. They send money back home. They build schools, pay hospital bills, support families. But when they speak out, they're branded traitors. Their voices are dismissed, even as their contributions keep parts of the nation afloat. This is the contradiction Cameroonians live with every day. They are told to be patriotic, but not political. To work hard, but not ask questions. To believe in the nation, but not challenge its rulers. And yet, despite all of this, despite the oppression, the poverty, the fear, the Cameroonian people endure, they create, they resist, they love, they rise. Even in silence, they've been building hope in their own ways, through music, through poetry, through community, through survival. But they are tired of surviving. They want to live. So, Mr. Biya, if this promise of yours is real, prove it not just with laws, but with listening. Sit down with the mothers in the Northwest who buried sons they never wanted to raise for war. Listen to the students in Douala who just want Wi-Fi, a scholarship, and a future. Hear the silence of a village whose school was turned into a barracks. That is where your real audience is. Not in Geneva, not at the UN, not on state TV, but in the heart of a people who have given you 40 years, and now ask for just one thing in return: freedom that lives in practice, not just in print. Because this isn't just about Paul Biya anymore. It's about what kind of country Cameroon wants to be, long after he's gone. Will it be a nation where the next leader rules by fear again? Or will it finally be a nation where power serves the people? The world is watching. But more importantly, Cameroonians are watching each other, and they are remembering who stood, who stayed silent, and who chose justice. History doesn't begin with a quote. It begins with action. So let this be the moment, not of a clever speech, but of a turning point. Because the truth is, the people of Cameroon no longer fear power. Power fears them. And this time, no promise will be enough without proof.